Hello everyone, hope everybody is doing well today. So let's talk about our true economic reality that we're facing here, not just around the world, but also in the US and of course here in Clark County. So let's take a look at the numbers. Now, I guess you can all imagine which area had the largest jump in unemployment rates. And again, unemployment rates don't tell everything. I see the true employment situation as how many percent of people are actually working and are working well satisfied full time between the ages of 16 to 64 who are born in the United States. That's the way I see it. But either way, the unemployment rate is looking very, very ugly. And as you guessed it, Las Vegas had the worst change from the last 12 months. We went from about 4% all the way up to 15%. And I can show you in a previous video that the unemployment rate for foreign-born individuals in Clark County was about 40-something%, because once again, the casinos disproportionately employ them. And a lot of other nearby areas like Los Angeles area had huge jumps as well, but their jumps wasn't so bad because again, their economy is more diversified than it is here in Las Vegas. And not to mention, we had stricter shutdowns compared to many other states across the US. You see huge jumps in Miami, Orlando. Again, a lot of these economies are largely either tourist-based or they had more draconian shutdowns. And then you go down the list, some places like Columbus didn't experience such a massive jump. And then San Jose didn't experience so much of a jump as well. And that's largely because of their economy, as we all know. Now, here's the really, really sad part. Even before the pandemic began, Las Vegas still had an unemployment rate that was much higher than many, many other metropolitan areas across the country. And you have to ask yourself, why is that the case? Because, not too long ago, before we had the late 2000s recession, the early 2000s recessions, Las Vegas usually had the lowest unemployment rate. In fact, I believe at one point it had one of the lowest poverty rates in the US. Well, what happened? Well, apparently, Las Vegas did not recover too well from the last economic downturn. And in addition to the fact that our economy is not so diversified, although some improvements have been made. And by the way, prayers to what happened to Tony, the guy who formerly used to run Zappos. So it's really sad to see him go. Appreciate what he has done to our local community. But again, we're no longer doing so well economically among the top performers, even before the pandemic. So in addition that we didn't recover, many of the problems continued to persist. And let me show you one aspect of it. So once again, just like the last time, our housing markets got really overvalued. So a lot of people can argue, well, we should have recovered healthy, we should have had home prices move up very slowly, but that's not exactly what happened. You can see here, in the peak of the bubble, we were at 315 grand, then we crashed down to 118 grand, I believe it was the largest decrease probably in the country. And then we rebounded to right here, I know this is kind of old, 280,000, and I believe the latest report is about 340,000. Now, you could argue that dollar value is more, but then again, you can also argue that, well, inflation adjusted, our current prices is lower than it was in 2006. And get this, just imagine if we didn't have the low mortgage rates and the down payment requirements that we had comparable to 2006. Remember, the standards are lower in terms of rates and down payment. So you have to ask yourself, why are the prices, why have they jumped so much higher? And the question is this jump that we had, was it very acceptable? And the answer is no, it's not acceptable. We had jumps that was certainly double digit in many of the years that we were recovering from the bottom of the early 20-teens decade. as opposed to back in the 90s when we had price appreciation about 4 or 5%. And get this, we were having massive housing boom. And one of the reasons why, in addition from the low rates, why we had prices jump up, it isn't just the demand coming from Californians and all that. A lot of it is because of the lack of construction. A lot of people argue it's the permitting costs, lack of labor, lack of builders, and so forth. But whatever it is, the lack of construction, lack of supply, creates scarcity, and that jacks up prices. Because construction from the last 10 years is very dismal compared to what we saw from the 1990s and up until the mid-2000s decade. And so it's not just the fact that these homes I've criticized many, many times, that they're not so good quality along with the urban planning, but these housing prices are very, very overpriced, compared to many other markets, compared to wages and so forth. So I believe the typical wage here in Las Vegas is about $40,000. And then the median home price is about $350,000. That's 1-to-8 ratio, certainly much higher than many other areas across the country. So what is going on here? Well, first of all, I believe long-term, there's a lot of downward pressure in the real estate market. And I'll do another video about that. But in addition to the fact that when you adjust for inflation, it will tell you that this is why real estate is not a good investment. So basically, we have the tourism economy that's struggling, and then we have the mortgage economy that's the next shoe that's going to drop. You have two major aspects of the Las Vegas economy. And here's the really sad part, that these low mortgage rates is really giving it on life support. Now let's take a look. Can we have mortgage rates that are 1%? That's really, really hard for me to see. Let's say if you take a $200,000 loan, okay, and you have a mortgage rate of 0.0, excuse me. So you see, you have a monthly payment of about $500 a month to pay it off. Now let's multiply that by 12. That's 12 months in a year. And let's multiply that by 30 years because you get a 30-year loan. And you can see here it's $180,000. So when you pay all the loan off in 30 years, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not paying the total $200,000 that you have to pay for the entire 30 years. In other words, it doesn't seem like the bank is actually making a profit. That's actually making interest. So how low can these mortgage rates actually go? This is the sad part. I mean, if they have 1% mortgage rates, how are they going to make a profit? So this makes me think that eventually, if we keep these mortgage rates low, and we have all the forbearance, we have all of, people not putting their homes on the market due to fear of illness, which eventually, that can't last forever. And if banks cannot make money at rates that are less than 2.5%, and it can't pump up the economy, well, then we've basically shot every bullet that we could to prop up the housing market. And if there's no bullets left, well, this is really not looking good. And not to mention a lot of other issues. Baby boomers are going to be selling their homes, the student loan debt crisis. That's on store for another video. But I can tell you that something is not looking really, really good, my friend. And in addition to the housing market, let's take a look at a lot of other articles. So you can see here, Nevada extends eviction moratorium. I know this article is kind of old from the September the 1st, but a lot of the pain is still persisting. You can see here, there's a lot of these individuals. This is a guy named Nuri Martinez, and you can see he was a bartender at Caesar's Palace. I have 2 kids. I have a mother-in-law, and I have to bring food first. I have to pay for my mortgage payment. And you can see here a lot of people were not able to get unemployment efficiently, and they're basically running out. There's no question about it. And I've exposed this organization, a couple of videos, Mi Familia Vota, and they're acting like, ooh, they're such an activist group trying to help people in. And they're trying to do that to kind of pander to people, to play the identity card. But you can see here, we've been trying to help the school district to locate a large percentage of families that have been able to connect since the beginning of the year. Now we're starting to work 50,000 students that have not been able to contact, a high percentage because families have left the state. What does that really tell you? It sounds like something like 100 or 200,000 people have already left Clark County. And I bet a lot of those people were immigrants, particularly who were non-citizens. And we've started to navigate this pandemic. Some of the people left because they didn't qualify for relief because of their immigration status. And now many people are facing challenges. It makes me think, well, I guess a lot of these restaurants, a lot of these casinos are maybe hiring a lot of non-citizens. Some of them don't even have legal documentation. You know, it's really, you got to look into the clues. After a wave of foreclosures of the 2008 financial crisis, and you can see here all the churches and nonprofits are running out of money, Nevada touted growth from a booming tourism and convention industry and puts the areas at a record high past due mortgage payments and another 327,000 who could be risk of eviction. And then you can see here, well, I'm behind on my rent, electricity, everything. Then you have as a member of the Culinary Union. Well, it's ironic how the Culinary Union pump these politicians that want to continue the shutdowns. It makes you think that they're really fooling their members and pumping these politicians. It's creating more destruction. It's unbelievable, which I think this is really backfiring when you think about it. They represent 60,000 people and they're demanding a right to return, and so they can return to their previous position. Now, let me tell you something. Do you really, really believe that these casinos are going to be fully staffed as what they were back in February? Think again. Give me a damn break. Seriously. They're not going to have enough business. All right? And these greedy people, how much money do you think they're going to have to continue to paying their employees? Now, they're trying to bring back their visitors, which, good luck, especially with the prices, the violence, the service, and their occupancy limits imposed by their same gaming regulators and all these requirements. They found that 66% of Nevadans report a loss of their income in their household, more than any other state in the country. Wow, no wonder why we're among the hardest hit. And of course, we have the real estate crisis coming soon, so this could go up to 80%. And so you can see that it doesn't appear those jobs are going to be back anytime soon, believe it or not. And I can see a lot of people leaving the state, which means that we could see some negative population growth. But on the other hand, we could see some work-at-home people or whatever, retirees come from California. So it's not easy to exactly see what's going on. And 18,000 furloughed workers. The T-Mobile holds 20,000 people. And now they're obviously not going to be looking back. Wynn Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, a lot of these companies, they're having a significant reduction of their workforce. And you can see right here, they're going to close the Mirage Mandalay Bay midweek due to visitor slump. Something kind of tells me this could be permanent. I don't really know. I mean, this thing could get so bad that eventually they may have to close these hotels. They could sell it to some foreign investor. These are rumors that I've heard. They could convert these into condos and apartments. This is going to look very, very ugly. And this could have a domino effect with all of us, including myself. So let's go down here. You can see that they opened a nearly 100% in gaming revenue, and they're still having a drastic decline in gaming revenue. And, well, they actually, believe it or not, recorded in October 2008 that it's still a drop of 25.8%. Wow. See, and a lot of things haven't fully recovered, even from the last economic downturn, like I've told you before. And the hospitality sector makes up 1 out of every 4 jobs in Nevada. More than 500 non-Nevadans have tested positive. You could see I'm not able to go back to work. I have done that. It's about me and my family. Now let's take a look at a newer article. This is coming from the Nevada Independent. You could see here, Travis Real was 1 month into a job as a bartender as a chayo at a trendy strip Mexican restaurant. And then when the pandemic hit, spending months in limbo over unemployment claimants, he's likely in part how he has in his new or previous job. Now he spends wondering, sourcing positions on Craigslist, looking different types of jobs. He's unclear how he's going to make his rent. It is very, very stressful. And you could see that there's a lot of eviction cases, a lot of eviction orders. And recently, as you could see, the Aspen Institute projects that somehow 181,000 households, renter households, because that doesn't just include people. If you include the people, it could be up to 300-something thousand, could struggle to pay the rent by the end of next year, which is the expiration of federal aid and eviction protections as well. Because again, how long can this exactly go? And there was a lot of other rental assistance programs, but eventually that is going to be pretty hard to extend on and on. I mean, how much money do we have? Can we print the money? I just feel like a kind of a worthless. It feels degrading not able to get some kind of a job. And I'm hearing a lot of those complaints. But guess what that government officials, especially locally, are doing? Now, this woman right here, as you could see, Cheryl Arrington, she ran for Assembly 28. She actually believes, by the way, the election was stolen from her. But she said, do you agree with this? The county will pull about $11.6 million to help the stadium plan. Like I've told you this years ago, I knew that the stadium was going to be a drag. And rather than focusing on the people, on the homelessness, all of that, they're going to bail out the stadium. And makes you think, really, that this is why they pumped Sisolak along with Sandoval. In the broad scheme, they're about the same deal. And the sad truth is, by the way, given along with the mortgage market situation, it's so bad, folks, that even if I became president, I really believe that I'm not going to be able to solve the problem. This country is just basically like abandoned ship when you look at it in a certain way. So this is why I'm not really concerned about this. So we did all these shutdowns for what? Well, let's take a look at some of the statistics about COVID. This is a deaths per 100,000. Now, I was told that the president did a miserable job. Now, of course, I think there are some things he could have done differently. However, the fact is the United States was not among the worst. The worst was actually Belgium, Spain, Italy, the UK. This is deaths per 100,000 population. So I thought, well, Trump is a major embarrassment, but you can see here the death rates isn't so high. And by the way, I was also told that, well, Sweden, which really didn't have a draconian lockdown, it was supposed to remain among the top levels, because I was told the lockdowns, the mask mandates, everything else was supposed to work. And I don't see Sweden right here. Correct me if I'm wrong. What in the world is going on? See here, do we see Sweden right here? No, not really. So what does this really tell you? Now let's take a look at the states, because maybe some people are saying some states that didn't have the mask mandates, they're having large amounts of deaths. Now that can make sense perhaps in states like North Dakota, South Dakota. But look, Andrew Cuomo with New York, they have the highest death rate. New Jersey, Massachusetts. What does this tell you? Well, perhaps this can tell me that they put all the patients in nursing homes and they have them among the highest death rates. And look at this. Nevada, we had a lot of strict guidance, but we're not among the lowest. This is really the sad part. Now, California was stricter and they're doing better than normal. But then again, look at this. Alaska, Utah, they didn't have as strict regulations and standards. Idaho wasn't as strict. In fact, Idaho is about the same rate as California. But I thought these lockdowns, I thought these mandates were supposed to help. What happened, ladies and gentlemen? Do these masks really, really work? Personally, I guess it just seems that people in their own private businesses should have their own mask mandates, and they should just check temperature. So let's take a look at more posts. Now, this is Barbara Sagaski, believe it or not. I've met her in person. I told her, look, I'm concerned about fraud in the 2018 election. She told me, well, we put in new machines to reduce the fraud. Well, guess what? Those machines actually made it worse, because as you can see here, in 2018, Barbara was the only Republican to win statewide after she authorized the Dominion election system. So Democrats who voted for Titus, Sisolak, and Susie Lee cast their votes for Barbara? How does this make sense? Let me show you another article right here. Historically strange spike in incomplete voter frauds, casinos as home. So they basically registered a lot of people who basically registered them as casinos or other places that doesn't make a lot of sense. And they didn't have any birth dates or gender or any of that kind of stuff. And you can see here, barely anything took place in the last several years. And then to 2020, we see a large number of people that took place about 3/4 from July to September. And why is this very, very important? Well, a lot of this happened in Congressional District 3. And as you know, Dan Rodheimer is fighting back and saying, well, there was election fraud, and maybe these close to 14,000 votes can significantly make a difference. And he lost by 13,000 votes. So, well, perhaps that's why they pumped a lot of those other votes. And there could be a lot of different elections results. Look, if they invalidate the votes in one state, this thing is going to fall like dominoes. And by the way, I sometimes feel like there was voter fraud in many other states, including Virginia. Because most of the election night, I found out that Trump was ahead Biden, and then they were saying Biden was the winner. And it was kind of like a computer glitch, or one county fully reported, and then Biden took the lead like the day after the election. It just really didn't make sense to me. And I'll show you the photo in another video. So this is a current actual election result updates. President Trump has 13 paths while Biden has only 10 paths to win. So let's take a look at the chart right here. These are 13 paths that Donald Trump can win. And believe it or not, Nevada still includes the 3 paths to win. So he can get Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada and get 274. He could get Georgia, and Michigan, and Nevada and get 270. He could get Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Nevada, get 274. So what do you think about this? How do you think this is going to be? There's a good chance I can see this go to the Supreme Court. There's a December 3rd hearing about this. And if, well, they're not going to give Joe Biden the 270 that he needs to win because the Electoral College is kind of messed up, then I guess we're going to have to go to one state gets one vote. And I guess you kind of know how that's going to really, really turn out. So anyway, this is looking very, very, very intense. Just, I don't know, hard to believe. And depending on the outcome, this country is going to remain very, very divided. And there's going to just be a lot of tension and potentially a lot of civil unrest. And then, of course, the economic mess that I told you, which of course is going to happen regardless of who wins, including myself. My goodness, what do you guys think about this? How do you think this is all going to play out?
If you don't have my money for me, I'll crack your fucking head wide open in front of everybody in the bank. And just about the time that I'm coming out of jail, hopefully, you'll be coming out of your coma. And guess what? I'll split your fucking head open again. Because I'm fucking stupid. I don't give a fuck about jail. That's my business. That's what I do.